Welcome back, John.
Thank you, Diane. Good afternoon, everyone. So, what we'd like to cover here initially is just the basics in swimming pool operation and maintenance. And we'd like to start out with some definitions because there's such a difference between residential swimming pools and commercial swimming pools. The differences are so great that the DBPR requires separate licenses for those two disciplines. Wells Aquatics happens to hold three licenses. I have a residential license, as Diane mentioned, a commercial license, and my business partner, Ryan Wells, also has a commercial license. So we spent some time with state tests. Anyway, to get going on the content here, the primary difference between a residential pool and a commercial swimming pool is that the residential pool is intended for the use of one living unit, which would be somebody's home. If a swimming pool is intended for more than one living unit, two, which would be two or more, then it's considered a commercial pool. And that differentiation is huge because the Department of Health is not involved in residential swimming pool construction or maintenance. They're all over the commercial swimming pool construction and maintenance. As a matter of fact, when we're going to build a new commercial pool, we have to have the plans approved by the Department of Health before we can submit them to the local building department for construction. So the biggest step is, or the biggest difference is that the Department of Health monitors and manages commercial pools. They're not involved in residential swimming pools. The next notable difference is that a typical commercial swimming pool, um, um, in having to comply with those Department of Health codes, there's just a lot of different additional rules. Um, the One of the most significant points that condominium association managers need to be aware of is that whoever's maintaining your swimming pool, your commercial swimming pool for you, must be a certified pool operator. This is a certification that's offered by the Department of Professional Regulation, the DBPR. It's not that big of a deal. It's like a weekend online course, but it is pertinent, or it is important that each property has a certified pool operator. Now, this could be someone on your staff, or it could be a pool service company that is qualified with CPOs. Can I have the next slide, please? So in commercial pools, there's several different breakdowns. Typically, we have a skimmer pool, which, according to the Department of Health and the building department, any commercial swimming pool that has more than 1,000 square feet of water surface area must be a gutter pool. And I'll have a picture of a gutter pool in just a moment. Um, if it's under 1,000 square feet, it can be a skimmer pool, which is typically what you would see in a residential backyard, with the exception that 1,000 square foot commercial skimmer pool, or let's say a 999 square foot commercial skimmer pool, would have three or four skimmers around the perimeter, where a typical residential pool has one, in some cases two. After the skimmer and gutter pool differences, there's specialty use pools and there's competition pools. This particular slide is showing an example of a competition pool. Typically, you'll almost always see lane lines in a competition pool, but just because the pool has lane lines does not make it a competition pool. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a commercial pool with a sun shelf, which was only started to be, it was only, the code changed, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and allowed us to start putting sun shelves in the commercial pools. It's a very popular feature where the water's I don't know, 9 to 12 inches deep, sort of a giant first step. This pool also, or this slide also depicts what we call a zero entry to the sun shelf. Just behind where those handrails are mounted is a gutter, and it's got a grate on it. So the water level of the swimming pool slides right up to, or flows right up to that gutter, and then drops into the gutter and goes back to the equipment. This is an example of a curb pool with a flat deck. On the next slide, I think it is, next slide, please. So we don't see pools built um, in this configuration very often anymore. Most of the pools that you see that have a curb around the outside perimeter of it, just outside of the gutter, are older pools. I think we you can still have a pool like this approved, but we typically don't. The deck is at the level of the top of that curb. So a little bit later in the presentation, I'm going to cover some of the items to take into consideration um, during renovations, and I'll point back to this particular slide at that time. Let's just remember that if we take a look, you'll see that there's tile on the outside of this curb, there's tile on the inside of the curb, and then there's also tile on the water line, which is the inside edge of that gutter. Can I have the next slide, please? This is just an example of happens to be a residential pool, but the idea is that this is a skimmer pool. And if you look just over by that planter at the upper right um, of this slide, you'll see that there is a skimmer up there. It's a little round thing that you see in the deck. Another interesting point that comes to mind in this photograph is that if you look at these steps, you'll notice that the steps in this particular pool just have little pieces of tile on them that we call spotters. That's not allowed in a commercial pool application. All step edges and bench edges in a commercial pool have to have a non-skid tile along the edge of it. And as we go through the future slides, you'll notice that they do. Next slide, please. Circulation and collection systems. Typically on a residential pool that you might be familiar with, you have a pump which draws water out of the swimming pool, typically runs it through a strainer basket and then through a filter, and then it goes either through a chlorinator or a salt chlorination system, and it's then sent back into the swimming pool. On commercial swimming pools, due to safety features, we are not allowed to have the pumps draw water directly out of um, the part of the swimming pool that people swim in. So the pumps must draw water from a collection tank, which is typically mounted away from the swimming pool over in the equipment area. And the gutter drains or skimmers and the main drain have to flow through gravity's force only into that collection tank, which eliminates the possibility of entrapment in the main drains. Typically, I'd say a majority of the commercial pools that we deal with, there'll be an equipment pack system, which you may be familiar with the term vac pack. That's a brand name. There's another company called AquaWorks that also makes packs, and a company here in Jacksonville called Compact makes equipment packs. And this is a fiberglass coffin type box that typically contains the pumps, in some cases, the filters, the collection tank, and all the other equipment that it takes to run the pool. Next slide, please. So the health department also requires that we maintain certain water chemistry parameters in all commercial swimming pools, and there's several ways to achieve these parameters. One is what's called manual dosing, and that's when your pool service guy or your CPO carries yellow jugs of chlorine or chlorine tablets and pours them into the pool or sets them in a tablet dispenser. And they would typically adjust the pH of the swimming pool water by pouring acid in to lower the pH, or sodium carbonate too, which is baking soda, um, to raise the pH. The second method of dosing a pool is through our balancing water chemistry is using an ORP controller. This is an electronic device that's usually built into a pack, or it can be mounted separately. It's an electronic monitoring system, which is connected to some mechanical pumps. These mechanical pumps, the brand name that we see, the two brand names that we see most often are Stenner pumps or roller chem pumps. These pumps can run independently without an ORP control system, and there's an adjustment on the bottom of the pump so that you can adjust the flow rate of the pump. So on a manual system, the CPO actually has to carry the chemicals up. On a Stenner pump or a pump system, there would be vats of chemicals stored someplace near the pool equipment. There'll be a vat of acid, muriatic acid, and there'll be a vat of chlorine. And these mechanical pumps are plugged into the electrical outlet, and then they're adjusted according to the adjustments that need to be made to reach the chemical parameters that the health department requires. The state-of-the-art sanitizing system is an ORP controller. This is a system that constantly sent, so there's a collection bowl, and as the pumps run, a little bit of the water is siphoned off of the return line and goes through this collection bowl. In the collection bowl, there's two probes, an acid probe, or which would be a pH probe, or a chlorine probe, and it's constantly sensing the water chemistry and reporting it on an LED readout on the screen on this piece of equipment. This piece of equipment is permanently installed, by the way. If you have none of no existing pools require an ORP control at this time. Anything new as of, I think, January of 2025 does require an ORP controller, and public spas have always required an ORP controller. The latest and greatest ORP controllers that we install on our new commercial swimming pools is a Hayward product. It's a Cat 4000. And what we really like about the Cat 4000 is you don't really have to go test the water. You don't even have to go to the pool, because if there's a Wi-Fi connection close enough, the Cat 4000 will constantly sense the water chemistry and report it to anybody that has the passcode for that particular through an application and Wi-Fi. It will report to, for example, the CAM's phone or the office computer, or anybody else that you assign it to, or the CPO. That just really is saves time and effort in maintaining this, and you can in this water chemistry, and you can also set parameters that will uh, trigger an alarm if the water chemist on your phone, if the water chemistry goes out of the preset parameters. Can I have the next slide, please? So the DOH will tell you when you're getting an inspection, everything that they do is centered around swimmer and population safety. Some of the safety features that the Department of Health requires and monitors on swimming pools, first of all, is the no direct suction or gravity feed to a collection tank. Secondly, is monitoring and managing the water chemistry. The third most common, most noticeable safety feature that they require us to put on swimming pools, as you might imagine, is fence. Now, the fence is condominium associations sometimes get in trouble by replacing fences because the fence has to meet pool safety code. And that safety code is very specific. First of all, the fence has to be 48 inches high, 4 feet. Secondly, there can be no opening between pickets or uh, under or over horizontal members of the fence that a 4 inch diameter sphere can fit through. Thirdly, the gates on any fence must swing out away from the swimming pool. The theory that the health department shares with us there is that if you have a toddler that comes up and leans on a gate that's not latched and the gate opens in, he can open the gate. And the skill set that's required to actually walk up to a gate that opens out away from the pool, grasp it, walk backwards and around it is greater than that of someone that could just lean on it. So they figured that that's a safer gate system than one that would swing in. The next parameter on the gate that they monitor and require is that it must have spring-loaded hinges so it automatically closes. It must have a latch that automatically latches when it does close, and it also must have a gate release that is at least 54 inches above the ground near it. So if you're doing some new landscaping, decide to replace the fence around the pool, it's very important that you be sure that the fence meets Florida Pool Safety Code. Otherwise, the health department will close your pool. The trigger, so there's certain requirements that are grandfathered in over time. The trigger that causes all of your all of your grandfathered in features to be non-compliant is when you refinish the swimming pool. So if you're going to refinish the swimming pool, um, it's critical that you understand that anything that's been grandfathered in has to be brought up to current code. One of the other problems that we run into with HOAs is that they'll request pretty LED colored lights in the swimming pool, and the health department's very specific about this. The only way that you're allowed to have a color light in a commercial swimming pool is if the pool is not open for nighttime swimming. If you're going to be open for nighttime swimming, you have to have white lights in the pool. Next slide, please. So renovating, I covered part of this already. Renovating a commercial swimming pool, if you go to the point where you're refinishing the pool, that triggers all of the grandfathered in um, features of the swimming pool that have to be brought up to compliance with current codes. So next slide, please. One of the one of the situations that we've seen change over the years, and for good reason, in health department regulations and codes, is this ladder. The ladder into the pool seems like it's sort of innocuous, but this is what's called, or this is a standard ladder. It's a non-cross braced ladder. And several years ago, it's probably 10 years now, but the health code changed to where all ladders had to be cross braced ladders. And on the next slide, I think we have a photograph of a cross braced ladder. But while we're looking at this slide, the story that's explains why we've had to go to the cross braced ladder can be visualized looking at this picture. Imagine two little boys swimming in the pool and starting to get bored. One of them realizes that he can pull this ladder out away from the wall of the pool a little bit by putting his feet on the wall and sort of doing a leg press and pulling ladder open, the gap between the ladder and the pool wall. His little buddy thinks it's going to be a cool idea to swim behind there, and that's perfect. They do that a few times and then get bored, and then the little boy doing the leg press decides it's going to be funny if he lets that go while his buddy's back there. Well, now his buddy's trapped underwater, pinched against the pool wall with a stainless steel ladder, and if buddy number one doesn't do another leg press and pull that ladder out so his buddy number two can get out, there's going to be a drowning. And that's exactly what happened. It's been years ago now, but that's the event that caused the ladders all to have to be replaced with cross brace ladders. So in our equipment room, we typically, so it may be in a backpack, it may be in your equipment, may be in a backpack type coffin box. It may be in an equipment yard, just a fenced area, or it may be in an equipment room. Typically in those spaces, we have the circulation pumps. If there's water features on the swimming pools, like deck jets or a waterfall or something like that, there would typically be an additional pump to run those features. There's also, if this is a DE filter system, there would be a tank, a collection tank, which I mentioned at the very beginning, that the pumps pull water out of. And normally in those tanks, if we're using a DE filter, there's the filter grids. So all of that's packed into that pack. There'll also be maybe an ORP controller, but there's a third pump. That third pump is for pumping the tank out, so it goes to waste, for cleaning the filters. The health department also requires an autofill on the commercial swimming pools. Typically, you'll find the autofill drawing on the collection tank and filling the collection tank. So there's the autofill over the side of the swimming pool is something that would be an obstruction on the deck, and the health department doesn't allow that, so it has to be over in the equipment area. But on the collection tank, if you turn the pumps off, the water level in the swimming pool equalizes. Actually, the water level in the tank equalizes with the water level in the swimming pool. And we had one situation down in Palm Beach that we were replacing an equipment pack, and the home or the condominium manager, well, as the guy I was dealing with, said that they had a problem because their pool equipment area kept on flooding, and they wanted to raise that equipment. They want to replace the equipment and raise it up. And so we started to install that new pack. We demoed the old one, and there's only a 6-inch range that I have in elevation to adjust where the pack sits. And we had to go back and forth a little bit until finally Mr. George, the president, understood that the collection tank, the collection tank in the equipment pack has to be set at the elevation within 6 inches of the level of the swimming pool. And it turns out that the reason that that pack area was flooding was that their giant clubhouse had 3 downspouts all on the north end of the building, all dumping into the area that drained into the equipment area. So by rerouting that, we actually solved that problem. But if you're having a pack replaced, it's critical that whoever it is that's doing the work, whether it's Oakwells or field technicians or some other competing company, it's critical that the guys that are doing that work understand that tank elevation is absolutely critical. Another interesting piece of the pool system that the health department monitors and we have to manage is what they call the wet deck. And the wet deck is considered the area of the pool deck from the water's edge 4 feet back away from the water. And when I say we have to manage that, it's typically on construction, but this would be pertinent to anyone that's doing a renovation that includes deck work, maybe a paver overlay on their pool deck. The health department's going to put a level on that deck, and it has to slope away from the swimming pool. And it can slope, it has to be a 2 to 4% slope, which is about an eighth of an inch per foot. And if you don't get that right, they won't let you open the pool. And it's very expensive to redo that if you, excuse me, if your contractor didn't get it right. The reason that that has to have a 2 to 4% slope away from the swimming pool is we certainly don't want irrigation water or splash water that's been splashed out of the swimming pool and onto the swimming deck, washing whatever's on the deck back into the swimming pool. And that would be considered a safety feature. I mentioned earlier the tile when we were looking at the residential pool that had tile spotters. If you look at this particular photograph, the black tile that's right on the edge of the gutter is what we call the waterline tile. There's tile very similar to that on the edge of all the steps and all the benches. That tile has to be non-skid. It used to only have to be non-skid over stairs. Now it has to be non-skid. Any place that it's installed where the area adjacent to it can be used as a step. So this gutter can certainly be used as a step. There's only about a quarter of an inch of water in it out by the edge. When we looked at that older pool in about 6 slides ago that had tile on the outside of the curb, tile on the inside of the curb, and tile on the water line, all of that tile, if it's being replaced, has to be replaced with non-skid tile now. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is a perfect example of a cross brace ladder. If you think back to the ladder that we looked at earlier when I told the story about the kids swimming behind it, this cross brace that goes from the vertical post on the deck to the vertical piece of post that goes into the water, that is the cross brace, and that certainly prevents anybody from being able to stretch that ladder out far enough for a child to swim behind it. The curb in this pool, you can see that there's waterline tile on the front edge of the gutter. There's the back of the gutter tile, which is the front of the curb, and then there's the back of the curb. In refinishing a commercial swimming pool, you do not have to replace all of that tile unless it's been installed as a slick tile. Then to bring it up to current code, you would have to replace it with non-skid. The gutter, which is the ledge that's underwater there, has specific dimensions that it has to meet, and those dimensions could change during a renovation because the tile guys are going to or the demo guys are going to chip the gutter out and chip the tile off the front of it. And that gutter has to be 12 inches wide at a minimum. It has to be within 1/4 of an inch of elevation all the way around the pool on that front edge. And then there has to be 2 inches of slope from the front edge to the back where the drains are. That's something that the health department measures after a renovation, typically measures after a renovation before they let you open the pool. So it's critical that whomever it is that you hire to do this work is fully aware of what the requirements are going to be to get your pool open. Something else that's obvious, pretty obvious in this photograph are the depth markers. The photograph on the left shows the horizontal depth markers where it says 8 feet. I don't know, it might be 6 inches, something like that. All of those horizontal deck markers have to be in contrasting colors. The background has to contrast with the letter itself. The letters have to be a minimum of 4 inches tall. And in this case, the horizontal ones have, not in this case, in all cases, the horizontal ones, but in this picture, the tiles that you see are horizontal, have to be non-skid tiles. If we look in the photograph on the right, you'll see that we've got the non-skid tiles on the top of the curb, and just around the corner there on the back of the gutter, the depths are once again installed. That does not have to be non-skid tile, but it does have to be able to be red from inside the swimming pool. It has to have contrasting not contrasting colors and 4 inch tall numbers. The what we don't see in this picture that is required is that all the way around the perimeter of the pool, every 25 feet, you have to have you have to have a one of the tiles installed. It's a no dive tile. It's the it's a picture of a diver with a red circle and a slash through it. Next slide, please. Handrails. This is another this is another feature that the health department measures for us. First of all, you'll notice that the end of the handrail that goes into the water always has to fall on the last step. The top side that's mounted in the deck can be close or, backed off the curb or the edge of the pool some. There's not a dimension that they require there. But it does have to be a minimum of 28 inches and a maximum of 34 inches above the deck. And where I've seen pools being renovated, I've seen the contractor or the property owner get in trouble because they were right on the low side of that 28-inch elevation before they did the renovation. That 28 inches went to 26, so they failed their health inspection or not able to open. You can flip back to that next slide, please. This is an example of what I was talking about just a minute ago. There's the no dive sign. That does not need to be on the vertical inside of the curb, only up on the top where you can read it from the deck. Next slide, please. So these gutter drains are something that we see poorly maintained on a regular basis. I'm not sure how it happens, but very regularly we see these are either broken, the screws are out of them, or some of the rungs are missing out of them. It's not necessarily a danger because that's just a gravity drain. Um, but if you drop anything in there and it gets sucked into that pipe, you're probably not going to get it back without opening up the deck. Next slide, please. The main drain. So main drain covers are something that are very strictly monitored by the Department of Health. The Department of Health has a record of the brand and size and the number of main drains in your swimming pool. There's also a manufacture date stamped on the edge of that. And the code doesn't specifically say 7 years. The code says that it has to be within the lifespan that the manufacturer has has certified. It's typically 7 years. So you have to have main drain covers that are within that 7 years manufacture date and that are also Virginia Graham-Baker Act, VGBA, compliant. This is a terrible story. Virginia Graham-Baker was a young girl. I think she was preteen. She was swimming in a swimming pool that had an infinity edge. And the story goes that she was swimming in the infinity edge basin, which is typically 24 to 30 inches wide and maybe 3 to 5 feet deep. And someone had been working on that swimming pool and taken the main drain covers off. Unfortunately, she had lots of long hair and she was playing around down there, and her hair got sucked into that main drain and it trapped her and she drowned. I'm not sure when that actually happened, but in 2007, the Virginia Graham-Baker Act took effect, and that changed how we build swimming pools significantly. That would happen to happen in a residential pool. And it turns out that there were safety features built into that swimming pool that would have prevented that tragedy. The problem is someone had started working on that swimming pool, left the main drain covers completely off, and didn't come back in time. Next slide, please. So, some common maintenance issues that we have. The first one is maintaining water chemistry, and I would highly recommend if you're struggling, if your pool, your property's pool is struggling with maintaining good water chemistry, that you spend the money to add an ORP controller. That takes the monitoring and dosing of the chemicals. It takes the human factor out of that because once you have this thing set up, it does it automatically. Even older pools can have an ORP controller added to them pretty inexpensively. It's a few $1,000s. It will pay for itself in the first year in less chemicals used typically because it's constantly monitoring and managing it, and certainly less damage to the pool and its equipment. What kills the interior finish of a concrete or gunite swimming pool's fastest is bad water chemistry. If the pH values get very, very high, there's too much calcium in the water and it forms scale. Once you have scale formed on the surface of the finish, there's two ways to get rid of it. One of them is to drain the pool and acid wash it. The other way is to refinish it. So maintaining that water chemistry is absolutely critical. The black algae problem um, is considerable, particularly in Florida. We have black algae everywhere. It's in the woods, it's on the leaves of the plants in the garden. It's just everywhere. And so in the swimming pool, the way that we try to prevent black algae from growing is by keeping the water chemistry right, but that's not the only thing that needs to happen because the water chemistry should reduce the incidence of black algae, but algae, particularly black algae, reproduces by the use of spores, which are like little teeny tiny seeds that'll float in the air. Those spores get into the swimming pool and they'll settle on horizontal surfaces, for example, like the bottom of the pool or the cove, which is where the wall turns into floor, or in the gutter. And so the two things that need to happen to prevent black algae from getting started in your pool are number one, you need to keep the water chemistry in the correct balances. And number two, the pool needs to be brushed at least once a week. And it's very challenging to find a pool service company that will actually do that. They say they do, but sometimes the guy doesn't feel like getting out of the truck. And what happens when you brush the pool is that those spores that I mentioned earlier that may have fallen into the water and settled on horizontal surfaces get brushed up off of it and drawn into the filtration system and eliminated from the pool. If that doesn't happen, if they're not brushed up, they'll start to blossom into black algae. And black algae is very tenacious. It gets on your interior surface, it sticks, and it's very, very difficult to get off. And once you have black algae started in the pool, it's very, very hard to completely get rid of it. It's more of a maintenance problem, just trying to keep the water chemistry right and staying ahead of it. It's a much better operation if you don't ever let the black algae get started. Uh, One of the common problems that we see in managing these swimming pools is keeping the water level where it belongs. A lot of times we'll have customers call and say they believe they have a leak in their swimming pool. And there's a simple little test to determine whether or not you have a leak in your swimming pool. But before I explain that, let me tell you all swimming pools leak. They leak through evaporation off of the surface. And the more disturbed the water surface is, the greater the evaporation rate. But as a rule of thumb, an open pool in Florida without water features running can lose as much as a quarter of an inch of water per day due to evaporation. If you have water features running, if you have water features running, let's say waterfalls, you're increasing the water surface area of the pool, which also increases the evaporation. If you have the return eyeballs that are directional in a swimming pool, a lot of times in the commercial pool, they're floor returns, so it's not an option. But if they're wall returns and you have them pointed up so that they're disturbing the surface of the pool, that's going to increase the surface area of of the top of the water, which is going to increase the evaporation rate. The simple test that I alluded to earlier is if you turn the pool pumps off and take your camera or your phone and take a picture of the water level when the water's still, just right at the water line on the tile, you can see it. In a corner is the best place to do it. And then take a 5-gallon bucket, set it on your pool deck, and fill it up to the very, very top and take a picture of that. Then wait 2 days and go back and look at the water level in the swimming pool in comparison to the water level in the bucket. If they're the same, evaporation is doing what it should and it's evaporating out of both basins at the same rate. If the swimming pool has lost, let's say, a half an inch of water due to evaporation and the bucket's only lost a quarter of an inch, the swimming pool has a bigger problem than evaporation. It's leaking someplace. And if the reverse of that turns out to be true, that the bucket loses more water than the swimming pool does, somebody either monkeyed with your test or your autofill is still on. So you would need to turn the autofill and the pumps off during a leak test like that. Uh, Emergency shutoff knowledge. Typically, the pool pumps run off of out of a sub panel in the pool equipment area, and there should be a double pole, which means two switches hooked together, breaker in the breaker box, and it should be labeled swimming pool. This is something that would be very important to check on to be sure that you're set up properly. In case that pool, for whatever reason, needs to be shut off in an emergency, that's how you would do it. On spas or hot tubs, there has to be an emergency shut off ballard with a timer on it. I believe it's within 15 feet of the spa, but it's definitely on the pool deck area near the spa. That's by health code, and it's critical that you keep those uh, in working condition. Next slide, please. Final exam. Once we run through these questions, if there's time remaining, I would like to field questions from anybody that has them.
Let's do that first, if
Okay,
you're okay. Yeah.
sure.
Okay, let's see. This was a while ago, but ORP, can you explain a little bit further?
So that's an acronym for oxidation, something potential, and it's actually measuring the conductivity of the water. And some smart guy has figured out that the conductivity of the water changes based on the chemical content in the water. So the ORP controller is basically a fancy name for a machine that controls the water chemistry.
There's a question. Autofill pumps fail, do not last for long periods, correct? Question mark.
So there's not an autofill pump typically. The autofill, um, the pressure for the autofill is just the water pressure for the water supply on the property. So it could be like a hose bib. They do fail semi-regularly. It depends on which type of autofill you have. Some of the old school pools, like the gutter pool that we had a picture in, I'm envisioning the equipment room on it, and it has a bronze or brass rod that sticks out from a valve with an old black toilet bowl float on it, and that's adjusted so that it turns the water on and off. On the newer Vac Pack and AquaWorks packs, there's a Toro valve and a pressure switch in that actuates that pressure switch actuates the valve that turns the water on and off. And more often than not, they don't fail. They're pretty simple. They're pretty simple operations. More often than not, they're just not set up properly.
Okay. Okay, everyone, if there aren't any more questions, we'll go into the exam. If you have questions after, we have a few minutes too. All right, let's go to the first question. All right, what is the maximum surface area for a skimmer pool under DOH regulations? We've got no one responding. Okay, here we go. All right, just took a minute. It's been a long education day, John.
I'm at the end of it, thank goodness.
You're at the end. Yes, we got to get you at the beginning next time. We've got all B's coming through.
Well, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, you want to take it from here, John?
Oh, am I supposed to be doing this?
You can.
Uh,
I can do it too.
which of the following is required
Oh,
to maintain a commercial pool in Florida? A, HOA president, B,
mhm.
unlicensed handyman, C, certified pool operator, D, any board member.
We got all C's coming through. Are there
Perfect.
slides where we don't get the answer given to
I don't
us?
know.
It seems
Let's see.
not,
It seems not.
which
Okay.
is
All right.
Might need to
ironic
Next.
because
change
I don't
that
remember
next
it
Hey,
time.
being
nobody,
that way.
nobody, nobody look.
Don't look at the
Nobody,
bottom. Don't look at the
don't,
bottom.
Yeah, this is an honor
I'll fix
system.
that.
this is the honor system. John will just read it. Someone said, I think I'll pass this one. Yeah, me too. This is the type of exam I like.
This is the kind of exam you've got to take to get a pool license.
Yeah. Okay.
What is the
What's
purpose of a collection tank in a commercial swimming pool system? A, water
don't
storage
look
for
anybody.
A,
Look.
water storage for irrigation. B, prevent swimmer entrapment. C, heat the water. D, drain water into the sewer.
Unanimous bees.
Surprise! The answer is B.
There you go.
Surprise.
B, prevent swimmer entrapment. What type of filter uses the discharge side of the pump for filtration? A, DE, B, sand filter, C, cartridge filter, D, none.
We've got all bees coming through.
Good
Stay
deal.
with us, everyone. Stay with us. Bees, it is.
The ORP range is considered optimal for commercial pool water at 5 to 600 millivolts, 7 to 800 millivolts, 650 to 750 millivolts, 600 to 650 millivolts.
Surprisingly, we have all C's coming in. Yep.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
So on an ORP controller, you can set them up so that it tells you what the millivolts is, or it'll tell you what your parts per million, your chlorine parts per million are. We typically see the parts per million setting used most often. What must be included in safety equipment for commercial pools? I didn't cover that. A, shepherd's hook. B, life ring with a 50-foot rope. C, pool rule signs. D, all of the above.
I don't know if everyone just is so smart, but everyone's putting D. See,
You,
we want you to win around here on everything in all the ways. So, we make it easy, digestible.
which pool type requires a gutter system? A pool with 800 square feet of water surface area, a pool with 999 square feet of surface area, a pool with 1,000 square feet of surface area, private residential swimming pool.
Everyone is saying C. I love the
Wow, this
emojis
is
in
just
Z. Very
amazing.
fun. Just amazing.
When must a pool be brought up to current DOH code? A, when changing the pool lights. B, when refinishing the interior. C, when repainting the deck furniture. D, every 5 years.
Everyone's saying B.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
What feature is required for night swimming approval in commercial pools? Color changing LED lights, white lights only, no lights, or solar lighting?
White lights only it's what everyone is saying.
Wow, great
B.
students.
Great student.
What is the minimum gate latch height above the ground required by DOH? 36 inches, 42 inches, 48 inches, or 54 inches?
54, everyone's saying.
Everyone's right. There we go.
Okay, guys, thanks for sticking with us to the end here. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Oakes while we have him? His service areas are throughout. Well, building remodeling is going to be in Duval, it's St. Augustine, Volusia, Orlando.
We'll go Volusia, Seminole County, Volusia County, uh, St. Johns County, Duval County, Flagler County. What's that county north of us here? Up in Fernandina, all the way to the Georgia line. We're actually building some pools in Georgia right now, South Georgia.
So if you know any board members or CAMs that are in those areas, we sincerely appreciate you recommending Pools by Wells Aquatics. Also, I love to tell people that they are a franchise now. So if you know someone in the industry or someone who wants to get into the industry, in the north in the southeast area, they have franchise opportunities and have a really great program. So you can contact John. I'm going to put his contact information in the chat. John, anything that you want to leave off on?
Well, so I did see that we had some people with us from Sarasota and from Naples, and we do have a franchise that's open and running down in, if I get the counties right, Collier, Sarasota,
Lee or
and
Collier?
and Charlotte
Lee
County.
and Charlotte. Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. So basically, if you need support with your pool, contact John.
Perfect.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Have a good night. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.